Ladies and gentlemen, Vice President, General Manager of Future Products, Mr. Carl Vanderpool.
Woo! All right, one more time, give it up for the band. Seaboot!
Thank you.
All right. Wow. Welcome, all of you. About 4 years ago, we started CreatorCon. And when we started it, we had about 100 people. So look around. It's amazing, huh? So first of all, welcome. We had 6,000 people registering for CreatorCon this year. 6,000 in only 4 years. And for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who came back, welcome back. I'm going to show you this very boring slide because we are going to show at CreatorCon future products that haven't been released yet. So I won't bore you with it, and I'm not going to read it out to you. Every year at CreatorCon, we're actually going to show product and code. We're going to double-click on some of the stuff that you already heard today and yesterday in the keynotes. And CJ, yesterday, talked about an inflection point in the industry. And I would like to articulate that actually a little bit stronger. I don't think we are at an inflection point in the industry. I actually believe that we're on the verge of a big breakthrough. And what I mean with that is that I've been in the computer industry for the last 20, 25 years, and enabling technologies mature over time. And in the beginning of the 90s, we moved from client-server to three-tiered to the late 90s. Then we moved to cloud computing, and by the end of 2010, we were comfortable with software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. In 2007, we had the iPhone. Now we're starting to talk about mobile in the business. So what you see is all these enabling technologies, they come, but there's like 4 or 5 years in between them. Sometimes even a decade before they come to maturity. But this time it's different. Because what is happening is that we have all these enabling technologies, and they're not coming in periods of 10 years or 5 years, but I predict that in the next 3 to 5 years, all these technologies will be completely mature, and that means, and we've been talking about some of these technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, bots, IoT. And think about it. All our apps that we build in the enterprise were designed and built before these technologies existed. We have the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to rethink every single app ever built in the enterprise from scratch. And some of these technologies feed on each other. Speech technology, virtual agents, machine learning, interconnectivity with other data sets, IoT, everything kind of feeds each other. So what we're seeing is that these enabling technologies themselves will accelerate the maturity even faster. Now, the question is, how come? How come that suddenly all these technologies come to fruition in a very condensed period of time? And I believe that that's because in the last 20 years, we've solved the fundamentals of computing. We solved processing power, storage, compute. It's all there. So typically, how enabling technologies typically come to market is there's something like a little bit like a hype curve. And I want to explain this a little bit to you so you kind of understand how we at ServiceNow look at these enabling technologies. And when we start to bake them into the platform. When we feel it's time to write, to move on them and bake them into the platform. When enabling technologies pop up, the first thing is we think they're going to change the world and going to change everything. We don't know exactly what everything is, but it will be everything. And most of these technologies will become very relevant, but not as fast as we think they are. And a good example of that is actually speech technology. Now, I'm from the Netherlands, which is very close to Belgium. And in the 90s, we had Flanders Language Valley in Belgium. There was a company called Lerner Houski, and they were the pioneers on speech technology. And a lot of startups around speech technology were there in the 90s, but they were way too early. They were trying to solve a problem, but we hadn't solved the processing and the fundamental computing power, processing power that is required to solve the puzzle of speech technology and natural language processing. So sometimes this pioneering work is way, way too early, and it takes a long time before stuff actually comes to fruition. And if you look today, then we are seeing the first benefits of speech technology. We all use Siri, we all use Echo Dot, but I think you would all agree with me that the technology is not there yet to have a free form in conversation with those technologies. So typically it goes from it will change everything, and then we're going to go like, it doesn't do anything, and then it starts adding value business case for business case. And it first starts in the consumer world. And then a little later, we start adding value in the business world. And the reason why the business world is a little bit later than the consumer world is pretty logical to explain. Let me give you the example of artificial intelligence. Now, if the AI recommends a not so good movie to me, as a consumer, I can manually override, I can browse the directory and I'll select something else. But if that same artificial intelligence recommendation engine in business makes the wrong recommendations, completely different story. So the tolerance for fault in the business world is less. We need to get it really, really right. And then typically what we see is use case by use case, we can start adding value. And that's when ServiceNow moves on these technologies and starts baking them into the platform. All right. So let's change a little bit. What are we going to talk about today? I already said at CreatorCon, we typically double-click on some of the stuff that you've heard in the last couple of keynotes. And on CJ's keynote, yes, it was CJ's keynote yesterday, Pat Casey introduced DevOps, Enterprise DevOps. We're going to double-click on that. We're going to talk about how do you build apps fast. We already know that building apps fast, that you can build apps faster when you build on platforms, but we're going to even look at and demo you how you can actually do enterprise DevOps on the ServiceNow platform. So demo. The second topic that we want to talk about is driving intelligence. So you're going to see more virtual agents, more conversations, more machine learning, and we're going to show you how we put that into a mobile application to create a fantastic experience. But before I bring up some people to actually show you the demos, I want to double-click on each of these points. So let's start with building apps fast. Now, some of you have told me, Carl, my executive wants us to transform, revolutionize, and we're going as fast as we can, and we're already building on the platform, and it's 10 times faster to get apps out of the door than what it used to be, but still, I need to go faster and faster and faster, and I don't know how to do that. And there's a famous quote by Mario Andretti, the former Formula One world champion, who once said, if you have everything under control, you're not going fast enough. And I bet that sometimes we feel that way as technologists. We know that we sometimes deploy stuff and ship stuff. We're like, not sure if we have everything under control. So what Enterprise DevOps is about is bringing back all the data, all the statistics that you need so you can make a grounded decision whether the quality is there for you to start deploying. No longer search for data or hunt for data in silos, but bring it all together in one platform so you have one view of are you ready or not. Now, we also had the CreatorCon Challenge this week. And what we see there is that the CreatorCon Challenge, we had 3 winners up there. And this is not about building apps fast. This is about building entire companies fast on the platform. These companies didn't exist last year. In fact, some of these companies didn't even exist a couple of months ago. And they all got funded, and they're off to the races and building a great company. So that's the power of the platform. We already knew that. Now, but one thing I wanted to talk about is like, what exactly is DevOps? Real quickly. So when I started my career, it took us 2 years to build a release. We had no SDLC planning tools. We basically talked to each other to figure out whether we were ready, yes or no. That was in the beginning of the 90s. Later on, everybody moved to Agile, which is really about design, code, test, code, test, code, test, and ultimately you will deploy. Most of us are in that phase still today and are moving towards the third one, which is DevOps. And DevOps is really about code, test, deploy. Code, test, deploy. And as Pat explained, that's what we do every day at ServiceNow internally. Yes, we release to you every 6 months, but we deploy every day thousands of times for our developer instances. We also deploy and release hotfixes to you at a very high frequency and on a monthly patch cycle. So this is like the way to get the motion going and to make sure that you can release stuff with high quality. So we're going to show you how we do that internally. Double-clicking on driving intelligence, a topic near and dear to my heart. We believe that the days for specialists with separate tool stacks are over. The powerful platforms in the enterprise will simply reduce the complexity once these technologies come to maturity, as I explained in the beginning, and we will bake them in natively. Now, ServiceNow has been doing this since 2013. We started with an analytics company that we baked in. We did it with machine learning, virtual agents, and you saw us moving on a natural language understanding company earlier this week that we acquired that we will also start to re-platform natively in the platform. Now, what does natively mean? It means we reduce the complexity. It means you no longer have to take data out and put it somewhere else. It means that you don't have to worry about security access control because you've already defined them in the platform. It means that it just works without all the complexity. Very important. And again, for those technologies where we see the maturity curve happening, we're going to take them and we're going to start baking them in. Now, let's talk about 2 of those technologies that we've recently, in the last couple of years, have been making a lot of investments in. Virtual agents and supervised machine learning. Supervised machine learning, we refer to that as agent intelligence this morning. What both of these core technologies have in common is that they feed off data. Data that sits in your instance, your data. But we also talked about how workflows span across ServiceNow. Pat Casey this morning referred to you're going to have multiple platforms, and there will be use cases where you need to be extending your workflow across multiple tools. And we talked about Integration Hub as a new technology and how to do that. And if you put the 2 together, what we're actually talking about is we're talking about connecting the data across an entire workflow so you can start leveraging the machine learning capabilities natively in your apps. And again, with DevOps, that's a great example. So we're going to show that to you, how we do that. And finally, delivering great experiences. Greg Petrov, this morning, talked about how hard it was to actually build a good mobile experience. And here are some of the things that you need to do in order to build a great mobile experience. It's a lot of activities that you need to go through. And again, similar as baking it into the platform, we are, as you've seen this morning, making this low complexity code, and we're baking this into a mobile platform that you can enable to build these great experiences. And that will alleviate the time that it takes to get these mobile applications out to the door. It's not going to be as frustrating and as hard anymore. But I believe experiences are much more than just mobile. We already talked about speech technology a little bit, and I believe speech will be a great driver on how we are going to request service, how we as managers are going to check status. I can see myself in a meeting room requesting the status of how many P1 open incidents do we have. So I think that technology is coming. It's going to be another access layer to requesting services. I also believe that there's going to be a big experience driver when we're going to talk about IoT. So the experiences that we talked about so far has been experiences on how we consume apps. And yes, they need to be beautiful. But what about the physical experience? In 10 years from now, our office buildings will not be the same. And we will have a different experience on how we actually walk through the workspace, how we interact with colleagues. So that's going to be another big thing. IoT will also change the experience on how we experience work, the future of work. Now let's talk about speech real quickly. So speech technology, incredibly important. And within the speech technology, you have natural language processing, which is, I'm going to oversimplify here a little bit, which is roughly the processing from a string of language and processing it to, for instance, another string of language, translation. And within the subdomain of that is natural language understanding. And that's the area where Parlo.io, a company that we announced on last Monday that we acquired, is operating in. They're operating in the field of natural language understanding. And I quickly want to double click on what that means. So this morning you saw the virtual agent, and you saw that you can chat with a virtual agent. And what Parlo.io, amongst others, will bring to that is that we can have more complex conversations or more natural conversations with that virtual agent. An example here is I lost my phone somewhere near Matterhorn. I might need a replacement. Can I get an upgrade? It's a pretty complex sentence. First of all, you need to understand that Matterhorn is not the mountain in Austria, but actually we're talking about a meeting room. And if the phone is lost, we need a replacement. And if I need a replacement, can I then please get an upgrade? So there's like 3 things in one. And this technology will deconstruct these sentences, will break them apart, will actually understand them, so we can start having these types of conversations through the virtual agent. So very exciting technology. We announced it on Monday. We are going to re-platform. We believe that technology is ready for prime time as well, and that will be something to look forward to in the years to come. All right, so to sum it up, we're going to show you enterprise DevOps, how you can build apps fast. We're going to show you how you can leverage the intelligence products and the intelligent layer, and that finally should result, and will result, I promise you, in a great experience. I'm not going to do that all by myself, so I would like to welcome on stage our really good friend, Alan, our CTO. Alan, come on up.
Hi there. How you doing? Welcome to the last afternoon of Knowledge. Pretty awesome to have you all here. I'll bet you're wondering about this. Yeah, and maybe the shirt for my Spanish-speaking friends. So we were going to bring a live llama on stage, but we heard there's spitters, so we decided that's probably not the best approach. But we had our choice. But I'm going to put her over here for now. And we're going to talk about this, I promise. Stay. Good. All right. We're going to talk about building apps fast. And the way you build apps fast is using the ServiceNow Enterprise DevOps workflow. That workflow, you might remember from the keynote yesterday, is about planning your software, building that software, testing it, deploying, and then operating. Basically, if you build it, you run it. That's what it's about. And we know that enterprise DevOps, that workflow, is something that we need to be able to do to drive that application experience, to drive that application process faster within the enterprise. We know that ServiceNow can be the go-to place to drive that application delivery, to drive that acceleration, to allow you to build apps fast for any app in your enterprise. You can build all sorts of stuff on the platform. You all know that. You've been doing it. We're going to talk about a fun one, and that's llama farming. So we're going to talk about building a llama farm app up here on stage. For those of you that have been here with us at previous CreatorCons, we've done this before. We built a Llamapedia, we built a Llama Service Catalog, and we built some flows and some workflows around running a llama farm. So we want to extend that. We want to show you how to add to that using the enterprise DevOps process. We want to show you how to build those apps fast, deliver great experiences, and drive it for this enterprise app. So I'm going to bring up on stage my friend Mala, and Mala's going to show us how we're going to build apps fast. Come on up, Mala.
Alan?
All right, Mala, here we go. We're going to build some apps fast.
Sure.
You ready?
You ready?
All right, so there's 3 steps we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about planning, integrating, and then collaborating. So let's start with plan. Planning is all about harnessing the power of enterprise DevOps. And we're going to show you our brand new agile development product that's shipping in Madrid, and it's going to have the ability to go off and do some really fun things and really accelerate the application development process. It's going to allow you to develop apps fast. It's going to allow you to get visibility across your tool chain and everything as part of that DevOps process. And it's give you some amazing controls around what's going on in application development. So I know you're going to show us a great dashboard model that integrates parts of that enterprise DevOps toolchain. So I'm dying for you to show this room. So why don't you give us a demo?
Sure. So what I'm going to walk you guys today through is a very common scenario that many DevOps teams experience. How do I bring speed, agility, efficiency, and quality to my organization to help build applications faster? So what I'm going to do now is take a look at the ServiceNow DevOps dashboard for the llama farm. The dashboard gives me a holistic view of how my team is performing, including their commits, the builds, the tests, and the sprint burn down, fully integrating with Git and Jenkins. What I can quickly see as I scroll through the dashboard is my team has been working really hard lately. Their builds, tests, and commits over time have considerably increased, indicating that we're tracking well towards a current sprint. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sprint burn down chart. The sprint burn down chart typically shows how quickly my developers are burning through user stories versus the total effort for the current sprint. And as you can see, we're doing really well. We're tracking really well and well ahead of schedule for the current sprint. This gives us an opportunity, potentially, to add more new user stories to the current sprint.
Just what devs want is more work. So people want to be able to do development. They also want to integrate other parts of the development toolchain and do those integrations via something like our DevOps workflow. So we want to leverage what you saw this morning with Integration Hub. Integration Hub is going to be the way to tie in those pieces of the enterprise DevOps toolchain, whether it's tools that are part of building, like Git, or whether they're tools that are part of testing and automating, such as Jenkins. You can easily integrate those pieces. You can build a library of components that can be reused as you're building those enterprise apps. And we're also going to ship you some pre-canned integrations as well for things like Git, Jenkins, Microsoft Teams, Slack, HipChat, and a lot more that are coming. So Mala, show us a bit about integrations.
Sure. Now, since we have an opportunity to potentially add more stories to our sprint, let's go ahead and take a look at our backlog. Backlog is typically a list of prioritized tasks for my development team. This is typically made up of user stories, defects, bugs, customer enhancements, and what you see is typically the most important business-critical tasks are towards the top. Let's go ahead and take a look. Looks like I have 2 new notifications on the triage board. So typically, backlog management tools focus on user stories. But at ServiceNow, our backlog management tool, we can add different tasks and manage it using Scrum. What I can see here is I have 2 new notifications. The first notification is something called auto-prioritize PRBs. This is where I can truly take the intelligence built in the ServiceNow platform to help me. So using ServiceNow machine learning algorithms, we quickly auto-prioritize, taking a look at the defects and bugs, auto-prioritize the ones that are critical for our business that need to be resolved first. The second notification that I have is called Lyra Imports. Let me show you how easy it is to integrate with third-party antiquated tools like Lyra, using our new intuitive interface to build workflows called Integration Hub. So what I'm going to...
I saw what you did there with that name. That was clever.
It is. So what I'm going to walk you through here is a workflow that I put together integrating with this third-party antiquated tool called Lyra. What we've done here is we've taken a complex integration, we've broken it down to tasks called actions to pull in the Lyra records. Either we can create a new record in ServiceNow or update an existing record. All these actions can be reusable, like Alan mentioned, in other integrations as well. Now, since we've gone ahead and pulled those records, Lyra records, into ServiceNow, we've unified our backlog. Not only do we have user stories, but we also have Lyra records and ServiceNow PRBs. So let me go ahead. Now, since, again, going back to where I started, since we have an opportunity to add a new story to our sprint, let me go ahead and see what story I'm going to go and add. Here on my backlog, I see I have 2 records from Lyra. This particular one looks interesting. Add virtual agents to the Llama mobile app.
Sounds like enough plan.
Let me go ahead and add it. There you go. It's as simple as that.
That is awesome. I don't know if you just realized what you saw, but we saw agile development, stories within ServiceNow, problems using machine learning prioritized into our backlog, and integrations from older SDLC tools, pulled those stories in for those developer pods that are just used to working in that tool, and now have a unified view of all that together. That's just awesome, and it's a really amazing way to drive that entire DevOps workflow right inside ServiceNow. But we know devs like to be devs. And what that means is they like their favorite tools. And one of their favorite tools is Slack. We know that. We all use it. And we thought it'd be really interesting to tie in the collaboration aspects, because devs want to work together, want to collaborate on this project that they're working on. Maybe they want to collaborate on the story Mala just added. And we've added notifications from our Agile development product directly into Slack. So as CTO of ServiceNow, I still every now and then get my hands in the code, much to the chagrin of practically every dev team. And I'm going to show you how, in a developer environment, we can look at this enterprise DevOps workflow. So over here, on my developer screen, you're going to see a couple things. Here we are in my dev environment. You can see in the terminal window, I'm doing a git pull. Here I have the ServiceNow Studio up and running, where I'm actually working on building the Llama Farm application directly inside of ServiceNow. And I just got this notification. What this notification says is Mala added a story that we imported from Lyra into the current sprint. I'm going to go directly into my Slack channel. And now I'll see that directly Mala's added Lyra's story into Sprint 1 about adding a virtual agent to a Llama mobile app. I don't even know if live llamas can chat with a mobile app, but stuffed one's not even sure about that either. But we're going to go for it. So I'm going to go ahead right here with inside Slack, assign that to a developer. We find the developers that have capacity to work in this current sprint. And I'm going to assign it to somebody who I know is good at both llamas and mobile, and that's Josh. Right there with inside of Slack, you're seeing enterprise workflow, DevOps workflow done directly with inside the environment. How awesome is that? Yeah, we like it. So we're going to talk about building apps fast, and let me show you what we just saw. We can plan, groom, stories, sprints, backlogs, all from a single interface. We can integrate into tools like Git and Jenkins and Slack via Integration Hub to fill out that DevOps tool chain. We can collaborate in the tools where devs just want to be devs and play in Slack or Teams or HipChat. So Mala, with that, thank you for your time. That was an awesome demo.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Mala did great. All right, so enough planning. You want to see some code, right? That's why people come to CreatorCon. They want to see code. So I'm going to bring out two friends of mine, Josh and Lily, who are going to show you how we're actually going to build this virtual chat agent for llamas right now. Come on out, Josh and Lily.
Thanks, Alan. My name is Lily.
And I'm Josh.
Today, we're going to show you how you can work intelligently with ServiceNow using mobile, a virtual agent, and a conversation designer. Now, we'll go back to those llamas. We'll show you how you can do all this through the llama farming app example just a little bit later. But for now, let's dig into mobile. I'm curious to know how many of you here use a smartphone? Obviously, everybody. OK. Silly question. Now, but how many of you use your smartphone for work, but in a meaningful way? Not just checking your email or your calendar. Definitely not as many. So these days, we're no longer just working in front of a desktop. Your employees expect a mobile work experience, and ServiceNow recognizes that. That is why we're making mobile a priority. So starting from the Madrid release, you'll see how ServiceNow will simplify the build and development of a native mobile application. It'll shorten your development cycle significantly, and it'll make it easier for any developer to build a quality iOS or Android application that people will actually use for work. So ServiceNow is going to bridge the gap between your work and your smartphone. All right, so before that happens, let's talk about today. I'm sure many of you here already have some sort of mobile application within your existing organization. So we're here to show you how you can enhance those existing apps with ServiceNow data. OK, now it's time to go back to that wonderful parallel universe of the llama farm. I want to introduce you to Josh. He is my colleague and a product manager at ServiceNow by day, but he also happens to be the head of mobile development at the llama farm on nights and weekends. Josh works very, very hard. So Josh is going to show us how he uses mobile with ServiceNow.
Thanks, Lily. So our llama farm managers are always on the go. They are going to llama farm conferences. They are opening up new llama farm locations. And they are on the plant floor overseeing different aspects of the llama farm operation. So we really need to give them a mobile app that gives them the right metrics to be able to do their job on the go. So let's take a look at our mobile app. So as a farm manager, I can see my approvals. I can see revenue. I can see incidents submitted by type. And I can also see alpaca fleece production with the llama fleece production on our farm.
So as you can see, having a mobile app can be pretty darn helpful. It simplifies your workflow, it saves you time, and gives the ability for the end user to make the right decisions very, very quickly. So just because you're away from your desktop doesn't mean your business should come to a complete halt. With a mobile app integrated with ServiceNow data, it allows you to run your business from your thumb anywhere. So having a mobile app is awesome, but let's take it to the next level. What about improving your employee experience? What about improving customer service? Customer service. Now, that is something that is traditionally slow and oftentimes kind of even painful. I'm sure every single one of you here has been put on hold. On the phone, waiting for that support agent while listening to this awe-inspiring hold music for an extended period of time. Many of you might recognize this one. Now, you're probably put on hold because the support agent is busy answering a bunch of redundant questions that really should be automated. That's why I want to introduce you to the ServiceNow Virtual Agent. It is a messaging-based platform for simple and effective conversational customer service. Now, the virtual agent can enhance any application, so Josh is going to show us how the virtual agent enhances the mobile app at the llama farm.
So customer service is no different at the llama farm. Our support hotline is jammed, and the customer support staff is overwhelmed. So we really need to find a better way to resolve some of those incoming incidents. And it looks like Alan assigned me a story to put the virtual agent into a mobile app. So that should help.
Wait, Josh, I see all these P1 berserk incidences. Oh, see right there?
Mm-hmm.
What are these? What the heck is that?
You don't know about berserk llama syndrome?
No, I don't know about berserk llama syndrome.
Well,
what is that?
It's a serious problem. It affects the llamas on our farm. They get aggressive, they start spitting, they get out of control.
Wait, so does it affect all llamas?
Well, mostly male llamas.
Sounds about right.
But it's a great use case for a bot. As soon as there's an incident, a farm manager can get it reported, and the bot can help get it resolved. So let's see how I put the virtual agent in the app. So here's my guide, and this is going to walk me through the whole process of putting the virtual agent into our iOS app. And the first piece is to make sure that we have Carthage installed. And Carthage is going to help us fetch and build the chat client. So I'm going to open up the cart file here and make sure it's pointing to our GitLab, and it knows exactly where to pull down the frameworks. So it's pointing to our GitLab. So what I can do now is run a Carthage update. And what this is going to do is actually fetch, build, and create all of our frameworks that we're going to put into Xcode that's going to have the virtual agent run into the app. So once that's finished, I'm going to go back to the guide over here and see what's next. So now what it wants me to do is take those frameworks we just created and move them into Xcode. So I'm going to go to the snowplow section over here. You see it says add frameworks and libraries here. It might be a little small for everyone in the back. What I'm going to do is go into the Finder and drag these frameworks right into our Xcode. So now that those are in, what I'll do is see what's next in our guide. So now what it wants me to do is take this boilerplate code and copy and paste it into our view controller in Xcode. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to our view controller, and I'm going to paste it right in there. Now the final step here is to import SnowChat. And SnowChat is our virtual agent. So I'm going to go up here and run an import. Import SnowChat. And then I'm going to run this build. Now once this build is finished, you should be able to see the virtual client in our mobile app. So I see it's succeeded. Now what I'll do is run the simulator. So here you see our mobile app, and you see the virtual chat client built right in.
That's awesome. So let's review what just happened here. Josh added a virtual bot in a mobile app within minutes. By using the virtual agent, it will improve your customer service and also decreases your agent and fulfiller workload as well. And from what we can see, the virtual agent is not just a desktop feature, but it's also a mobile experience. In fact, the ServiceNow Virtual Agent SDK can be added into any third-party application. How cool is that?
Pretty cool.
So we've talked about the virtual agent. Now we need to design and create a conversation flow for the users. The ServiceNow Virtual Agent Conversation Designer allows developers to quickly put together a smart interaction between an intelligent bot and an end user. So Josh is going to show us how he uses the Virtual Agent Conversation Designer to script out the Berserk Llama incident conversation.
Thanks, Lily. So here you have the virtual designer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic conversation between a bot and a user. It's going to take me a couple of minutes without any code. And then what I'm going to do is show you a conversation I designed in about 15 minutes, which is a little more complex, has some branches, and has a little JavaScript. So here's the virtual agent designer, and here I have my user inputs. So here the user can input text, or I can have them select from a list. I have bot responses here. I also have actions and scripted actions, as well as decision trees that I can start using to branch the conversation. So what I'll start with is give the bot a nice warm welcome message. So let's say, hello, I am here to help. Now, as soon as we give that welcome message, what I want to do is give the user a list of problems to choose from. So I'm going to pull over a list over here, and we're going to call this problems. And the user is going to see, please select from the following problems. And the first problem they're going to see is missing llama. I'm going to get a value of 0, and we can refer to these values later programmatically. The next problem is going to be equipment malfunction, and we'll give it a value of 1. And the final problem we'll have is berserk llama, and we'll give it a value of 2. So once the user selects these problems, what I want to do is branch the conversation based on what they chose. So I'm going to put a decision tree over here. We're going to call this, I'm going to see if I can branch the conversation. So if the user selects missing llama, or if they select berserk llama, I can have the bot initiate a different action or a different workflow. I'm just going to use the berserk path for now. So let's call it berserk. And what I'm going to do is, as soon as the user has designated that there's a berserk llama, of course, the most important thing is their safety. So let's go ahead and ask the user about their safety. So I'm going to say, call this node safe. And the user is going to see, are you safe? Now, once they have designated that they're safe, of course, I want to give them a nice warm bot message. So I'm going to add a bot response here. And we're going to call this few, say, thank goodness. Now, as soon as we get that bot message there, what I want the user to do is input a description of the incident. And we're going to ultimately be able to use that description to be able to create a record in ServiceNow on their behalf. So I'm going to scroll down here and get to my incident. And we're going to call this incident description. Incident description. And the user is going to see, please describe what happened, and we'll get this reported. Now, once they've put that description in, I'm actually going to create a record in ServiceNow. So I'm going to bring over this action field over here, call this incident. I'm going to select create record, and then I'm going to update the table, which is going to be incident. I'm going to update the field here, which is going to be description, and then I'll save. So now I've actually created an incident on behalf of that user. So once that's done, I want to let them know that I did that. So I'm going to give another bot response over here, and we're going to call this reported. And the user is going to see, sorry to hear that, it has been reported. Now the final thing I'm going to do is give the user another Boolean and ask them if there's anything else I can help them with. So I'll put a Boolean over here. We'll go ahead and call this anything else. Is there anything else I can help you with? Now I'm going to save this, and I'm going to zoom out. So what you're seeing here is a conversation between a bot and a user where I'm actually submitting an incident on their behalf. Now I can always go over here to the previewer and see this conversation. So here you can say, hello, I'm here to help. It's going to give me those options. I can select berserk llama, and it's going to run through that flow, asking me if I'm safe. Now I'm going to show you how all this looks on the phone in just a bit. So what I want to do is show you a little bit more of a complex conversation that I designed in about 15 minutes. So it's a very similar conversation here, but if I zoom in, you can see instead of a yes or no for safety, I'm going to ask the user yes, no, or maybe. If they say yes, they're safe, I'm going to run that same flow you saw before where I submit an incident on their behalf. If they say no, they're not safe, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write a scripted action here. It calls a method, and it's going to connect the user directly to a live agent. So they say they're not safe, they'll be connected to a live agent. If the user says they may be safe, what I'm going to do is give them a few options to choose from. So these options are going to be, there is one berserk llama. The second option is the llama must have knocked over some equipment, so there's hazardous equipment in the way. And the third one is that the llama must have started a trend, and now there's a bunch of berserk llamas going crazy on the farm. So what I'll do is, if there are a bunch of berserk llamas, I'm going to make sure that we dispatch 3 strike teams. Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, they'll all be dispatched to deal with the berserk llamas. If there is hazardous equipment in the way, I'll dispatch the cleanup crew. So Shiny Farm will be dispatched, and they'll take care of the equipment. And then finally, if there's one berserk llama, what I'll do is I'll just dispatch Team Alpha, because they should be able to handle the one llama. Now, once the user has selected one of those things, I want to ask them to confirm their location. So what I'm going to do is first give them a message letting them know that the right strike team is on their way. And then I'm going to grab the GPS of their device and actually ask them to read it back. So I'm going to say, is this your GPS? They're going to confirm. Once they've confirmed, I'm going to ask them to submit an image of the situation. And this image is going to allow the strike team to identify what they're getting into. And then finally, what I'll do is I'll have another decision tree here asking them if they want to be transferred to a live agent. If they do, what I'll do is run that same live agent script you saw before and connect them. And if they don't, I'll end the conversation. So here you go. Here's an example of a more complex conversation between a bot and a user, and we're going to see how all this looks in just a second.
Thanks, Josh. So what Josh just showed us is that we are automating resolutions for most common requests, making it self-service. Now, for those requests that can't be automated, then you can direct them over to a live agent. And what's happening here is that we are augmenting humans with virtual agents in order to increase productivity. Now, with the ServiceNow Virtual Agent Conversation Designer, it will decrease your development time so you can quickly bring this feature into production. All right, let's bring all this together and go over what we just saw. Number one, you can use ServiceNow data in a customized mobile experience. Number two, you can quickly add the Virtual Agent SDK into a mobile app. In fact, you can add it into any third-party application. Number three, you can design a tailored conversation using the Virtual Agent Conversation Designer. All right, so Josh showed us all these wonderful tools that developers can use. Now we want to show you how ServiceNow delivers great experiences for your end users. Oh my gosh!
Oh no!
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! There is a berserk llama.
All right, we should.
Oh my gosh! I think we need to report this llama.
All right, let's get it reported. Let me open my mobile app here.
Okay, let's do it.
So what I'll do is I'll start a help chat. And I'm going to type in, I need to report an incident. Once that's done, I'm going to select Llama Farm incident. OK. Now, what's my problem? Well, clearly there's a Berserk llama.
Yeah.
So I'll select Berserk. Lily, are we safe?
I don't know if we're safe, but I have him contained.
Let's go ahead and select maybe.
OK.
All right, I'll select maybe. So what's the situation? Is there multiple llamas? There's no equipment in the way. There's an aggressive llama.
Kind of aggressive, yes.
So I'll select aggressive llama. Now, what's my location? Well, 201 Sands Avenue. We're in Vegas, right?
I think we're in Vegas,
right?
yep.
So let's select yes.
OK.
All right. Now let's take a photo. Lily, should we take a selfie?
OK, I guess he's OK now. OK, yeah. Wow.
Wow, is that how we look?
I think we look pretty good.
All right, let's use the photo.
OK.
All right, do we want to be transferred live agent? I'll go ahead and say no. So there you have it. There's a conversation between a bot and a user, and you saw exactly how I just built it.
And look at how and look at how simple and easy that was. Imagine what you can do with these tools. Josh and I cannot wait to see what you build. All right, back to Alan.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
You can do whatever you want.
OK. Oh, let me put this.
OK. All right. You guys are all safe from those Berserk llamas? My llama is still safe. They're buddying up. That's good. All right, so what do we see here today? We showed you how to use ServiceNow enterprise DevOps workflows to really build apps fast. We talked a little bit about how we can drive intelligence in those applications and really add value to those applications via the mobile application and the virtual chat. And then we also delivered an amazing, and if I don't really mind saying so, beautiful experience with a beautiful picture of llamas up here on stage. It was a lot of fun. I want to make sure that everyone understands that we just built an app on stage. This is for you, developers and creators, just a great experience. But we want to look a little bit forward. So I want to bring back on stage Carl, talk to us a bit about what's coming next, what the future is about. Come on back, Carl.
That was a lot of fun. No problema, right? No berserk llamas anymore. So remember in the beginning we talked about experiences of the future, and we show you what you can do today. But I also talked about the physical experience. And I want to dive in a little bit on IoT in the llama farm, because I think that's a great use case and another example of what you could do in the future. Think about health monitoring, right? It's a funny picture, but it's a serious topic. This is already happening. We're putting sensors on livestock to track their geolocation, to make sure that animals do not get off the farm, and we bring that data back in. We already use sensors to optimize feeding so that we have better production for our livestock. And these are some of the things that you can see happening on the llama farm or any other farm, right? So next year, or maybe years after, we're going to show you how, I'm expecting that we're going to show how all these technologies will come together and how we are going to continue to drive great experiences with voice, with mobile, with chat, with physical experiences, and how that all will completely change the way we rethink our enterprise applications. And with that,
you have to learn how to do this. If you want to go off and do this, you want to go off and get involved in this experience, you want to learn how to develop on the ServiceNow platform, come to a developer meetup. These are community-held groups. Their events are held quarterly. There's 9,000 of you that are out there in this community now. In 12 different countries, we're having these meetings. You can also join the developer program, get a free developer instance, learn about training, documentation, access to our share site. You can go to developer.servicenow.com.
Now, before we say goodbye to you, right, how many of you would like to see the band back up on stage? All right, let's do that. Come on up, guys. And then before I say thank you for being here, and we hope to see you next year, but until we see you next year, please do the following things. Go and drive enterprise DevOps in your organizations. Go and leverage these enabling technologies that we show you today and transform your business. And have a lot of fun tonight. We hope to see you next year. Thank you.